Ethan had always been the forgotten one. Growing up in a small town in Oregon, his younger brother, Lucas, had been the center of their parents' world. While Ethan worked tirelessly, excelling in school and earning scholarships, Lucas struggled academically but shined in sports. Their parents, David and Margaret, praised every minor achievement Lucas made while Ethan's successes were barely acknowledged. The difference became painfully clear when Lucas received a brand new car for his 16th birthday while Ethan had to work part-time to afford a used one. Their home was filled with Lucas's trophies and medals, while Ethan's awards sat gathering dust in a forgotten drawer. Ethan thought he had left all that behind when he moved to Seattle for college. He thrived, earning a degree in engineering and securing a well-paying job at a prestigious firm. He built a life of his own, away from the constant shadow of his brother. But just when he thought he was free, Lucas came back into his life, and this time, he would take more than just their parents' attention. Ethan met Claire at a charity gala. She was intelligent, kind, and had a passion for helping others. They clicked immediately, and within 2 years, they were married. Claire became his rock, always supportive and pushing him to be his best self. Their marriage was what Ethan had always dreamed of, until Lucas returned. After failing to make it in professional sports, Lucas moved back home and reached out to Ethan, claiming he wanted to reconnect. Claire encouraged Ethan to give him a chance. "Maybe he's changed," she said. Reluctantly, Ethan agreed. At first, things seemed fine. Lucas visited often, sharing stories of his struggles and regrets. He expressed admiration for Ethan's success, something Ethan had never heard before. Slowly, Ethan let his guard down. Then, the unthinkable happened. One evening, Claire sat Ethan down, tears in her eyes. "I have to tell you something," she whispered. Her confession shattered his world. She and Lucas had been having an affair. It had started as innocent conversations, but it quickly escalated. Worse yet, she was pregnant, and she wasn't sure who the father was. Ethan's heart pounded in his chest. His wife. His brother. The two people he trusted most had betrayed him in the worst possible way. Ethan walked out that night, his mind numb. He checked into a hotel, unable to return home. The following day, he confronted Claire and Lucas together. His brother stood there, arms crossed, offering weak excuses. Claire begged for forgiveness, claiming it was a mistake, but Ethan saw the truth in her eyes. This hadn't been an accident. It had been a choice. Their parents' response was predictable. Margaret called Ethan selfish for not forgiving Lucas. David pleaded with him to think of the baby, as if that erased the betrayal. They expected Ethan to be the bigger person, just like always. But this time, he wouldn't. Ethan filed for divorce immediately and cut ties with his family. He sold their house and moved into a sleek apartment overlooking the Seattle skyline. He thought he was free, but the nightmare wasn't over yet. Months later, Ethan received a call from his mother. "We need your help," she said, her voice desperate. Lucas had lost his job, Claire was struggling financially, and the baby was due soon. Their parents had been supporting them but were now facing financial trouble themselves. Ethan laughed bitterly. "You're asking me to support the people who destroyed my life." Margaret's tone turned sharp. "Family helps family, Ethan. Don't be selfish." He hung up without another word. The harassment escalated. Lucas emailed him, claiming he was struggling and needed money. Claire wrote messages saying she regretted everything and wanted Ethan to be a part of the baby's life. Their parents went as far as showing up at his office, causing a scene in the lobby, demanding he take responsibility. Ethan had security remove them. The final straw came when Ethan received a court notice. Lucas and Claire were suing him for financial support, claiming emotional damages from the divorce and Lucas's inability to find stable employment. Ethan's lawyer was relentless. In court, she presented evidence of their constant harassment, their financial irresponsibility, and even social media posts where they flaunted lavish purchases despite their supposed hardships. The judge dismissed their case entirely and ordered Lucas to pay Ethan's legal fees. Outside the courtroom, Lucas glared at him. "You think you've won?" Ethan stared back, unflinching. "No, Lucas. I just finally stopped losing." Though victorious in the courtroom, Ethan felt no sense of relief. He stood before the window of his modern apartment, gazing out at the gray Seattle sky, the clouds swirling like the stasis he couldn't escape. He no longer had family, a wife, or even the closest friend he once considered a brother. Everything had shattered into pieces of the past. But after the storm, a part of him began to feel a sense of peace. He no longer had to live in the shadow of anyone else, no longer had to bear the weight of expectations that had never recognized his efforts. He could start over, make decisions for his own future. But it wasn't as easy as he thought. One morning, while working in his office, a call came that left him shaken. It was his mother. "Ethan, I just want you to know. I love you. You're my only child." Her voice cracked through the phone, muffled by sobs as if an old wound had reopened. "I know you're angry with me, but our family needs each other." Ethan sighed, not because he didn't understand his mother's feelings, but because he was so tired. Tired of the late apologies, tired of the excuses for betrayal. "Mom, I can't keep doing this. You can't love me and still push me into this pain. I can't keep living in a family like this." There was a long silence. Ethan knew she was crying, but he couldn't open up any further. "I have to live my own life," he said, his voice hardening. "And it's not that I don't love you, but I have to protect myself." The call ended, and a hollow feeling overwhelmed him again. He didn't regret his decision, but the pain wouldn't go away. Time passed, and Ethan realized that moving on from the past wasn't as simple as he had hoped. He continued working with passion and professionalism, but the pain was still there, like a ghost following him. He had left his family behind, but sometimes, the unspoken questions still haunted him. Could he ever forgive himself? Could he live a life without them in it, or would he always be just a shadow of the person he once loved? One afternoon, on a rainy day, when Ethan stopped at a cafe, he ran into Claire. She looked different, her eyes no longer filled with the same smugness they once had. Despite his hesitation, Ethan decided to approach her. She gave him a weak smile. "Ethan," Claire said, her voice trembling. "I was wrong. I never thought things would go this far. I didn't think about the consequences, I only thought about myself." Ethan looked at her, a long silence stretching between them. He had once loved her, but now, that feeling was nothing but a distant memory. "I'm not the man I was in the past anymore. I've learned to let go." Claire fell silent, her eyes brimming with tears. "I just want you to know how sorry I am for what happened." Ethan nodded slightly but said nothing more. He finally understood that forgiveness didn't mean going back. Forgiveness meant moving forward, for himself. Ethan began to form new relationships, not with his family, but with real friends who helped him realize that he didn't need to live the way his family had dictated. He found joy in his work, in new hobbies, and especially in rediscovering who he was. He met Maya, a woman passionate about travel and discovering new things. She didn't care about his past, she cared about the person he had become in the present. Their relationship wasn't rushed, it wasn't pressured, but built on mutual understanding and respect. Every day, Ethan learned how to love himself again, not because he needed someone to prove his worth, but because he realized he deserved to live a life free from the past. He no longer needed to please anyone, no longer had to strive for anyone's approval. Ethan had stopped losing. He had finally learned to live for himself, and in that, he found his greatest victory. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this story. If you did, please hit the like button and share your thoughts in the comments below. I would love to hear what you think. Your feedback really helps me create better content for you. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an update. Thanks again and see you in the next video. Take care.